Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 141.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. Enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three guys who sometimes shower together. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that follows three full-time authors as we attempt to change the face of indie publishing. Join us in our trailblazing guests as we shove aside boundaries, freely experiment, and occasionally screw up. I'm Johnny B. Truin, and my co-hosts are Sean Platt and David Wright. In case you just want to know who those guys are, Sean was the one who grunted during the intro. So that was Sean.
I grunted?
No comment on that. But I love that we're having connection issues again. This is good.
Yay.
Can anybody hear me?
I hear you.
I hear you.
Can you guys actually even hear me?
Yes.
We totally hear you. This is our Who's on Bit comedy bit right now.
Johnny's not hearing us now? Great.
Oh, this is fantastic. So I guess it's a two-man show until he comes back. Yeah, and what sucks too is I think this is a Google thing. Oh, Johnny's gone. Fantastic. This is an audio thing where, well, now it's not a problem now that it's only two of us. But as soon as the third person comes on the Hangout, it freezes. So like I can't see you guys talking. I just like everybody freezes, and so there's no movement, and I don't know who's talking when, but whatever.
This is a start. This is a start. I told you that the Google overlords and the robots will take over, and this is their start. They're testing our patience right now to see what triggers us. It's a psychological experiment.
It's not much for you, right? Aren't you just always on the wire's edge, just like always right there?
I'll be among the first wave of people that they round up and put in a camp.
Holy shit. So I love the tech issues. Have you guys just been entertaining the YouTube audience while I've been screwing around?
If you can call it entertaining, yeah.
Oh, man. This is going to be somebody's first episode, and it's probably Nick's. People are watching this now and thinking, what has this guy gotten himself into?
Come back for more. It's professionalism.
Come back for more. We're usually not that bad, but Google has hated us recently, and the last few episodes have had some sort of tech issue, so apologies. So the Nick that I mentioned is Nick Stephenson. Nick wrote a book. Nick wrote many books. Nick wrote a nonfiction book called How to Supercharge Your Kindle Sales, which I would highly recommend. I read it. Sean read it. Dave, I think you read it too, right? We all read it.
I actually read it independent of you guys and was talking to you about it, and you say, hey, we read it too. And I was like, wow. Because usually I hate most of these sorts of books. And
yeah, we all triangulated on this one, and it makes sense because this is our year of optimization, and that's largely what the book is about. It's tweaking this and tweaking that, and really good stuff. So even if you have one book out there, it's still worth reading because you understand kind of how to position it, how other people who are coming to your book for the first time and reading your product description and that kind of stuff is really important, and I think that we tend to undervalue it. And also, it's funny because you can look at traditional publishers, like let's say you're wanting to write a product description for your book, and you go to look at traditional publishers and think, well, they know how to write a product description. Clearly, I'm going to copy what they do.
Everything.
But that's not necessarily a good idea because they're not necessarily thinking about it in the right way. They're not necessarily thinking about it. Traditional publishers, despite moving to Amazon, are still thinking about the customer who is in a bookstore, and they're picking that book up and they're turning it over and reading the back copy, and that's different kind of copy than what you have.
What is this bookstore thing you're talking about?
Right. So it's like the world has moved on, and I think that Nick's book does a very good job of kind of understanding how a modern book consumer is looking at that.
So the way that I came to Nick's attention, because this is like this is your life of how did we all meet Nick Stephenson? Is I had lunch with Jay Thorne, who lives kind of near me, and he was like, "Oh, you I know." He was like, "Oh, you gotta talk to Nick Stephenson, and he's been doing great things." Jay said with his email list, like specifically, it was like, "Oh, he added just tons of people to his email list." So I actually wanted to focus on that today. I asked Nick if we could talk on how to blow up your email list, but he's got a ton of other stuff to say, so I'm sure it'll be a rollicking good conversation. So anyway, so what's new with you guys?
No, well,
okay.
I became the father of a teenager this week. That was,
he's literally going to say what's going on, not in publishing, but just what's going on in your
I
life.
don't really care about that.
Well,
If
yeah.
you adopt her.
No, my daughter Haley turned 13 this week, and so that was my big news for this week.
What's going on in indie publishing? What's going on in our writing careers?
We could put it in. This isn't a writing career thing, but we could put it in a link to the show notes. Except that means I have to find the link. But you could Google it, I guess. It's BookBub. BookBub had a thing. It was a survey for what kind of people buy.
Oh, I have that.
Book discount readers. Books. Yeah, and that was pretty interesting. So, BookBub readers, there was just, I think it was something like 10 things you don't know about.
11 things you don't know about bargain ebook buyers.
Yeah, you want to run through that list really quick, just boom, 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 because that was interesting stuff.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Hang on just a second. Yeah, so it was, hold on, why will this not screw up? Okay, so it's on the BookBub blog, and number one is their power readers. Almost 60% of the book buyers consume a book a week, and 1 in 10 said they read a book or more a day, which is like as fast as we write.
So jealous that those people have that kind of time. Good Lord.
If you reprioritized, you could find some of that time back, Dave. Let's be honest.
I'd only stop writing and like spending time with my family.
Well, you know what? I didn't read for a really long time because I didn't have time. But I'm up to 1 or 2 books a week now, and
you're cheating a little bit because you're listening to audio.
Well, yeah, but it's still consumption. It's still like I'm in the habit, and one feeds the other. Because I'm reading or because I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm more willing to read. I am. So it's kind of cool.
It says that number 2 is they read everywhere. 45% said they read at work. Number 3 was they primarily read on tablets. So that's interesting to know for like formatting concerns and stuff. 60% said they prefer tablets, and that includes the Kindle Fire and Nook HD, so the little tablets too. Number 4, they don't just read ebooks. It says 60% also read hardcovers, and that's hardcore. They're not just reading paper; they're reading hardcover. 3/4 said they still read paperbacks. Number 5, they're genre readers, which makes sense for BookBub because they're divided by genre. So they primarily I misinterpreted that. It says they primarily consume genre fiction.
Which I think is good for a lot of our audience.
Yeah, I took that to mean that they were consuming by genre, but it says they consume genre fiction. So apparently anything but literature and nonfiction is genre fiction. Apparently that's what that means, which I think is kind of crap. Why isn't literature just a genre? But whatever. It says they prefer mysteries, thrillers, and romance was the majority, which doesn't surprise me either. Their median income is above average. They buy full-priced ebooks. It says, well, they're bargain readers and they're price sensitive. It said over 3/4 said they buy full-length titles.
That doesn't surprise me at all, but I would like to ask Dave if that surprises him.
No, not among people that read a lot. No, not at all.
Okay.
Number 8, they try new authors, which is very important to all of us.
And I think that makes sense because if they're buying cheap books, like it's way, way, way harder to take a chance on a full price book with an author you've never heard of and have no experience with. But and years later, I know John Locke's book has been discredited in so many ways, but I think that is the best point that he made when he was talking about pricing and that. Well, I can't compete with them at this price, but I can compete at this price. People are willing to give me a chance at this price. That is a good point.
I don't think John Locke's book deserves to be discredited. I think that the thing with buying reviews sucked and he shouldn't have done that and blah, 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 but I don't think it changes the fact that a lot of the rest of the book still has real good value.
No, I agree with that.
Well, it's kind of lying by omission, though. I mean, he talked about how he got super popular, but left out one little bit of fact, and that should have been in a book. So
It should have been in the book, but still, a lot of those core principles
it doesn't
aren't things that we
discredit
would
the rest of
disagree
it.
with, right?
Right.
But yes, that was shitty, and it
Especially if it was a big part of the equation.
yeah, and it sucks.
And let's not forget this is the guy who battled the smoke monster. So, I mean, come on. Like, he deserves a little bit of credit, John Locke.
No, I like that John Locke.
Yeah,
okay.
that's.
Do you like the philosopher, too?
Big fan.
It also makes sense that they would try new authors because there was something to go with that, and I don't remember what it was. You were saying because they were bargain ebooks and they're willing to try new authors. I guess just because you read so much. Like, if
Yeah,
you
I
read
just
that
think
much,
they're
you
hungry
have
for
to.
consumption. You know what? It's like people who are really into music and they'll try any new band because you never know when you're going to find your next favorite song, your next favorite band, and anybody's worth a try. And so people are, who are avid readers like that are always looking for their next favorite author.
Yeah.
And I think that people, in the same way, music, I think people are looking for books that other people don't know about because it makes them feel special. They're looking for the gems.
Well, also when I was a kid, I read the Hardy Boys books, and there were like 100 of them or something. There were a ton, but when I got to the end, I did the most unthinkable thing for a teen boy to do, and I started reading Nancy Drew because it was the same author.
I did the
It
same.
was like I used them all up, like I'd gone through them all.
Yeah.
So I had to go with Nancy Drew. So that was one. Number 9, read the books they download, so they aren't just hoarding; they aren't digitally hoarding.
Okay, I admit that surprises me because I'm a buyer. Like I buy a lot of books.
I think they might be lying.
But
It said most of those surveyed, so it could be 51%.
yeah, I do. I buy way more than I read. And I would assume that a lot of bargain buyers are the same because it looks good. Ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. But then tomorrow they want something else, and you just can't read everything that you download. So that one surprised me a little bit.
I know I check the Kindle Daily Deal like every single day, so I know I'm not alone there.
Is that the
How
only
often
site
do you
you
buy-
check every single day?
The only one. I don't go to any other website every single day.
Dave, how often do you buy a daily deal?
I'd say maybe twice a week, maybe more.
If you buy it often enough,
buy a lot, and I don't
if
read
you
a
buy
lot.
it often enough, they'll feature you. That's the way that works.
That's my plan.
Wait, Dave, how often do you buy the nonfiction stuff or do you buy fiction stuff on Daily Deal too?
I buy both. And how often do I
But
read?
you
the
never
fiction?
read fiction.
I know. What I want to though. I have the best of intent. Like I know I want to get to the book. Like there's that superhero book I got. I want to read that, but
Okay, see, but that's
If there was a
exactly my
NutriBullet
point.
on Daily Deal, would you buy that? Or a treadmill?
That's exactly my point. I think that there's got to be a lot of people who just buy it because it's the daily. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I do that.
well, yeah.
So that number just the most people, that surprises me a little bit. That's all.
It said they become loyal fans, and the statistic is it says over 60% of the readers. This is from a massive survey they did. Over 60% of readers we surveyed said they've purchased other books by an author they discovered through an ebook price promotion.
And every one of us should love that. That's awesome. That that you have the possibility to not just be a one and done, but to make an impact on a reader and have them go seek out more in your catalog. That's great news for all of us.
Especially if you're doing a promo with a book that maybe it kind of hurts a little bit to discount it, because then you realize you're getting more bang out of your buck. It
Well,
means
yeah,
that
you
they'll
did
keep
that
going.
with Fat Vampire, and you were like basically giving away the store, and you were a bit nervous about that, but then it helped push the book for sales, right?
Right. Well, it also makes me wonder about something like when Ed Robertson did his complete fantasy series. It makes me wonder if there's and we don't know, we don't have these statistics, but if he's giving away the whole series, like the Fat Vampire bundle, I had books 5 and 6, they could continue in the same series, but maybe that means that you could, now you know Ed Robertson, and maybe now you try Breakers instead of the fantasy series. I don't know.
And again, I think that's a really good, that's the right publish repeat model, right? You need that catalog, you need that inventory, because then you don't have to be precious. I'm going to give this book away as a bargain because I want, even if it's only 5% but that's still 5% of that reader that you can, move over to a wider catalog. And it does make sense to say you have a promo coming up, update your CTA. If you're going to get in front of a lot of extra eyes, make sure that you're updating your back matter to, if the book that you're putting on sale, you're less precious about putting that on sale because now it's 3 years old, say. And that means there's a good chance for most indie authors you haven't updated that back matter in 3 years. So you really want to update it so that you can take advantage not just of sales, but of hopefully conversions. Put a new CTA that gets people either onto your list or pushes them to a book that the same reader of that book is likely to enjoy. And that's how you're going to get the most out of those bargain book ads.
Last one is they recommend books they like, and it says almost 2/3 of those we surveyed said they'd recommend a bargain book to a friend. So that's good too. It says they're influencers is the way they interpret that.
Yeah, this was really good news, I think, in general. All 11 of these things are things that work for us if we understand them.
What was that, Dave?
I said other people have friends? I don't believe this survey.
That's the F word people keep talking about.
Oh, that's the... Oh, wow.
I do have an update on the Colonist session that we're going to be holding. That's our in-person event, just because people have asked. We had a few more registrations. I think we have a dozen spots left now, something like that. So that's great. More people hopping on board and are going to join Sean and I in Austin in April 18th and 19th, which is going to be great. The page for that, if you're curious, is sterlingandstone.net/colonist. And the early bird registration, which is 25% off, ends on the 28th of January, 2015, I believe, in case you're listening 6 years from now. I think that's right. And
sorry you missed it. It was awesome.
No, that's it. But there was a discussion in Slack right beforehand that was distracting Sean and I from getting any work done. Well, Dave was hopped in there, too, with one suggestion.
He suggested we all eat at Johnny Carino's.
I was slacked
on where we were going to go.
I slacked seriously today. Slack owned me. I got so little work done. It was terrible.
Got bitch slacked.
I did get bitch slacked. It was terrible.
So I don't know if there's more to say on that, but and we're going to be doing a Q&A. If you didn't get the email, I don't know that I can just give it out because I don't know if it's a readable link, but Amy sent out an email today. We're going to do a Q&A for anybody who's thinking and just has questions about it, but it's you'd have to look for the email, I guess. Send me an email, help@sterlingandstone.net if you didn't get it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
All right. What was that, Dave?
We had some comments, so I can wait.
No, go ahead. That's it.
Ryan Attard says, 2 minutes in, Dave, we're all going to die. Yep, I'm at the right show.
No, I missed it.
James Thorne, blow it up. Jacob Tulos writes, I read at work. Oh, wait, Sean, don't read this. Amy says, at my old job, there would literally be entire days when no work came in and I could read a novel. Not only read a novel, but pace circles around the office while reading.
Man, that sounds awesome.
I used to have a job like that. Monica Lionel says, why does Dave buy the Daily Deal? You never read books. This is a new world all over again.
It really is. It's so spectacular. He's like 2 or 3 times a week. Did you buy the Calvin and Hobbes that went on sale a couple weeks ago?
Yes, I did actually. Even though I have it in print, well, I wanted to see how it looked in the ebook. Plus, I want my son to read it, and I don't want to give him my books.
How many of them did you get?
Just one. I was actually going to go back and get more, but I just got the one.
I actually got all of them, but I got them for Haley as an early birthday present and just sent them to her Kindle. But I thought that'd be cool.
I'll say that they're kind of small. I was disappointed how they look on the Kindle Fire. I think they'd look better on a larger tablet because they don't expand, which really sucks. That's very disappointing to me.
Yeah, I saw a lot of 1-star reviews bitching about that.
Yeah.
It sounded like me bitching about food in Ohio, though.
Especially Calvin and Hobbes, because you want to see the art, nice and up close. It's fucking Calvin and Hobbes, and what do? They shrink it down to a postage stamp, but whatever.
Bastards.
Bastards. All right, so I don't have any real updates other than to say that we continue to optimize, that being the optimal, the word of the year, and holy shit is optimizing a big task. I'm having to iteratively optimize, so combining the last two, because
You're
it's
giving
like,
Dave a headache.
and it hurts too, because I'll be like, I'm just realizing how poor conversion-wise a lot of our product descriptions are. So if I can't show you this because I don't have the before, but the product description for Future of Sex, Lexi title, which is basically Sean and me with Lexi making it filthy, is I rewrote that, and the original was just it was a weird thing. Like I went to the site and what was that, Dave?
Fuck, more fuck.
I went and I originally said, wow, this so is not. It was like a light bulb went on. Like I knew it was there. I knew how that description was, and I read the description, and I said, wow, this is not compelling. Like I know the story, I know it's great, but when I read that description, I was like, wow, this does not make me want to read it. And Monica actually gave me a great compliment in via Slack. She's like, or no, it was a Hangout. She was like, "Oh, I just happened to notice that." She's like, "I kind of want to read that now. I had decided I wasn't going to read it," and it's like, there you go. So I think you need to look at your stuff with new eyes. But when you have as much stuff as we do, I keep thinking, okay, well, I got to do Axis, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and
Yeah,
that
we've
doesn't include all
just
the CI
scratched.
stuff.
Yeah, we've just scratched the surface on this stuff, but it really does make a difference. And when you're doing product descriptions, it's almost like you can't think of it. If you're a fiction writer, you're probably in love with your story, and you're probably going to make it about your story, and it's really not that. A product description really should be more like copywriting than fiction writing. You're not telling a story, you're selling a product. And I know it hurts storytellers to think in that way, because you want your story to be so magical that people will just buy it, but it's not. There's so much whiz bang going around on an Amazon page or on any ebook page. There's a lot of images, there's a lot of copy, and if you don't grab that attention right away, it's very hard to capture the sale, especially if somebody doesn't know you. So you got to think about your product descriptions as copy.
And another thing you'll see on that Future of Sex page is a new cover. So we did, that was one of those covers that really stymied us, and so now the cover is, I think, a really magnetic cover. We're also going to be having Donovan, what's his last name?
Sure.
On the show. He did the adult video cover, which was giving us so much trouble too, and that's another title where looking forward to putting some promo behind that, because it's like the cover now represents what it is. So just things to consider. I'd like to read an email I got, if that's okay with you guys. I printed it out. So
Andy,
you what? Frozen. Okay, so it's some fan mail. It says, "Dear Johnny, Sean, and Dave, thank you for the self-publishing podcast. I am a poor child from a poor village where we can only get broadband on certain days of the week. My biggest problem here is clean water and the inability to get good book covers. What would you recommend? Do you have any recommendations?" So what do you think? I wrote back and I said there's nothing we can do.
What? You left that poor person stranded without any help whatsoever?
Well, I told him where he could find some clean water, but I said that
that's not important.
There's nothing you can do.
Who cares about water? No. The book cover is what's important.
Do you know that a lot of the world lives each day without quality book cover design?
Wow, if you just start playing a Sarah McLachlan song, I think I'm going to cry.
So what would you do?
What would I do? I would tell them to go to 99designs.com/SPP. That's what the hell I would do.
Oh, well, if I had known that, if you'd have bothered to tell me before, I could have given this advice.
Okay. If you happen to be tuning in, poor person in a village with the hut.
He only gets broadband on certain days of the week.
You poor bastard, you. Okay. Where you want to go is 99designs.com. They have lots of designers competing to give you the best book cover possible. A book cover that is so damned awesome that you won't even care that you're dying of thirst. Because you know that book cover is going to perform. The book cover is better than sustenance.
So how did the contest work, Dave? How do they? Because this is new news. How would you get that great cover?
I'm embarrassed to know you guys.
Well, first of all, you go 99designs.com/SPP. You get your Power Pack upgrade, so you get the best contest going, and then you write down, you enter, and you tell the designers what your book is about. You might give them some other ideas, maybe some pictures, maybe examples of other book covers that you want to look like, because you want your book to look like it belongs in a bookstore, not not in a hut wherever you are. So then you'll have lots of designers competing to give you the best cover possible, and you just pick and choose among them. And I know money is a real concern if you're living in a hut and you don't have water or anything. So here's the best part. With 99 Designs, you have absolutely nothing to lose. If you don't like the cover,
nothing to lose.
C'est la vie.
So
you don't have to pay for it.
Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and use that link to get the free Power Pack upgrade, which if you don't use it, really there's something wrong with you. So
you deserve to live in a hut.
Highlight. You're listing Dave taking it way too far. Love it. Love it. All right, so I'd like to welcome our guest, Nick Stephenson, who has joined us during the terrible ad read. How are you, Nick?
Yeah, that was perfect timing, I think. I just jumped right in there.
And you managed to wrap it up roughly on time.
Your timing is amazing.
Check for Dave. Dave, are you going to be able to make this with the accent?
I don't know. Nick has a damn sexy accent.
Thank you. So do you.
So this is kind of fun. When I contacted Nick originally after talking to Jay, because Jay introduced us, Jay Thorne, and then I kind of, it was the holidays, and like I kind of forgot about the email, and then I was searching around looking for books, and I read a bunch. I read Simon's audiobooks for indies. I read a few others, and I read Nick's, and it took me a while. Like I was halfway in the book before I said, "Oh, wait a minute, this name ringing a bell. Like, is this the guy that I was already communicating with?" And have since become a Nick Stephenson fan. Like I listened to him on Rocking Self-Publishing. I subscribed to his email autoresponder series for like Kindle tips and stuff, and told Sean to do the same. And I haven't gotten around to watching the videos yet. But you're a wealth of information, Nick, and I'm glad to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
So what is your give everybody your fiction background? So I mean, you're on here as a nonfiction author, but your primary business is fiction.
Yeah, I'm all over the place, really. So I started writing
we don't know anything
a couple of years ago. No, not at all. No, you strike me as extremely organized. I like it. It's the style I'm going for as well. No, I started writing a couple of years ago, and I think I never really expected all that much to happen. And like with most authors, I think just starting out, I think almost nothing happens for like a year, and then slowly over time you sort of figure out what works, what doesn't work. And then I really just focused on, focusing on the stuff that actually does get results. So as well as writing books, and I think I put out something like 8 books in the last couple of years, which isn't particularly impressive from a lot of self-publishing standards. But I was working a full-time job at the time, had a young kid, and really just focused on writing as much as I possibly could. So I write the Leopold Blake mystery thriller series, and if anyone's watching this live, totally go check it out on Amazon, because I've just had a book bub ad, so I'm going to look really impressive to everybody on the show. And it all kicked off from there, really. So I got into the non-fiction side of stuff just by kind of figuring out what works with book marketing, and then just sharing it with everybody else, really. So I'm glad you heard of me. It's always good.
Yeah, I have, and I feel like I could ask you a ton of questions, but I'll just say that this is part one of the larger body of Nick Stephenson related interview stuff, and you should listen to the Rocking Self-Publishing podcast interview as well. Just to not overlap a ton, I wanted to talk to you mainly today about email list growth, because I think that's the one thing that's a consistent. That's one thing that's consistent. Like if you're using Kindle Unlimited and you're trying to get borrows and you're not everywhere, then that mitigates the risk because you have an email list and you can tell people to go somewhere else. If you're everywhere and you're gathering people a few times, you have an asset that's your email list that you can take and is portable. And that was one of the things that Jay said right away is you got to talk to Nick, because he was blowing up his email list. So is that a good place to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much what I've been focusing on for the last year or so, is just focusing on building email subscribers. And just like you said, you can rely on, sites like Amazon and to a lesser extent, I think iTunes and Kobo and Nook as well. But if you really want to have a long-term career, you need that platform. And Facebook's great, Twitter's great, but as we've seen, I think in the last month or so, these guys change the rules all the time. So where once you might have got quite a good reach on Facebook, maybe today it's not so great. So if you have email, that's something that you control. It's a line of communication that you own. No one can take it away from you. So if you, worst case scenario, if you want to change retailers, you can do. Or if you just want to boost sales on Amazon or your favorite ebook retailer, then you can do that as well. It's great for getting reviews and for building actual engagement with readers, which I think is the main thing, because I think a lot of authors kind of work in isolation, and they write the stories, they publish them, and don't always get a chance to interact with their readers because Amazon's selling all the books for them, so they don't really get that kind of interaction. So building an email list is a great way to hear from readers and find out what they really think, and hopefully it's good things. And it's just an absolutely fantastic way to build your audience. Can't beat it.
What do you do to to keep open rates open? Like, I mean, we could talk about ways to build the list because that's really important. But I think that getting people on a list is it's easy enough. It's straightforward enough. But holding their attention, I think, is super, super hard. And making sure that they open your emails, they click on your links, and they don't, toss your emails or report you as spam. Like that's kind of the goals there.
Yeah, it's just don't sound spammy, I guess, is the best advice. I mean, I subscribe to a lot of mailing lists, sometimes on purpose, and you can tell immediately when an email comes through. You can tell, is this email trying to pitch me something, or is this email trying to give me something? So I think I always try and phrase my emails in a way that makes it very clear what's in it for my readers. So it doesn't matter what's in it for me because that's not important. It's what's in it for the readers. And hopefully most of the time, what's in it for the readers is also good for me as well. So we have this kind of common interest. So I think subject lines are important because that's the first thing anyone's going to see. So if you're trying to phrase something in a way that's emphasizing that you want something from someone, chances are they're not going to open it. But if you are trying to be more genuine and you're trying to kind of entice people in with what's in it for them, that tends to be a lot more effective. So I don't know, simple examples like you could use subject lines that have a question. You could phrase a problem. You could just really identify with who your audience is. And I could give you a dozen examples, but it all depends entirely on who your audience is as to what they're going to find interesting. But just remember, it's all about them.
Please buy my book.
Yeah, buy my book. Yeah.
I've seen your nonfiction emails. I'm subscribed to that list, and it's great stuff. Good subject lines, good emails. But I'm curious. I'm not subscribed to your fiction list, which I should because I'd love to see that. But I think that's a harder nut to crack because nonfiction, you're solving a problem. It's just so much more straightforward. But I think with and holding their attention too. I know you have a whole autoresponder sequence, and you can kind of drip out solutions to the same problem, and people are going to maintain interest because that problem's not going away. But with a fiction book, even if you have characters that are recurring and people like that, how do you maintain interest between book one and there's got to be months before you're releasing another book? So how do you kind of keep that fire warm in between that time for a fiction audience?
Yeah, I mean, I try to email twice a month. Even if I've not got a launch or a promotion coming up, I try to email frequently so that people don't forget who I am. Because I think if you get an email out of the blue from someone 6 months down the line, there's a risk that they might forget who you are and just automatically send you to the spam bin. So what I do is I talk about other authors' work as well in the same genre. So I figure, like you said, with fiction, it's a very specific problem that you're trying to fix. So it's quite easy to be targeted with your emails. But if you take the same sort of thinking with fiction, you think, the common problem or the common issue with fiction readers is they want something good to read. So if I'm emailing out in a particular week and I don't have anything of mine that I want to, tell them about, I'll talk to them about another author who writes in the same genre, and I'll say, look, I like this author. I've read this guy's books. It's quite similar to mine, and it's only 99 cents on Amazon and Nook here. So if you like my books, you'll probably like this guy as well. Go check it out. And then more importantly, I ask them to email me back and tell me what they thought of the book.
That's so smart. That's so.
And I ask my readers, the first email I send out, and this is an automatic one when they sign up, is thank you for signing up, yada yada yada. Here's your details, and then in bold at the bottom I say, have you read anything good lately? Let me know, and I'll see if I can pick up the book and read it. Right. And I get responses from people saying, oh, I loved your book, Nick, and I also love this author. In which case I'll go check out that author and maybe pick up one of their books and try and read it, and then we can have a discussion as a community. And I think that's encouraging engagement, and that makes a big difference.
I love
that. I mean, just to unpack that a little bit, there's so much that is right about that, because you're showing them that you're a real person on the other side of the email, which is really important. You're learning who they are, which is really important. You're saying that you don't just care about yourself, you care about their interests, and you're promoting other authors, which is really important. And you're also training them to click links. You're saying, hey, there's this other book, but it's not mine. I'm not making any money on this, and it's 99 cents because it's a good deal. But then when your good deal comes along too, it's a natural part of the flow. Like every part of that works.
Exactly. And it's not even, it sounds a bit Machiavellian, like I have this all planned out from the start that I'm going to get people to trust me, but it's a genuine thing. And I think people can really tell if you're being genuine. So I do care about what readers think and what they enjoy, and not just to help me as a business person, but to actually get to know them as well. So that's really important, to come across as genuine and to find out more about your readers. It can make a big difference, definitely.
Do you know what statistic Jay might have given me for list growth that you had in a period of time? I don't remember it off the top of my head, but he said, well, Nick added this many people, he's adding this many people a month, just to get people enrolled.
Yeah, it was 15,000 in 6 months, which was absolutely insane.
That's fantastic.
And this was because all I was doing was focusing on building my email list and literally nothing else. So everything I did was, my aim is to get people onto my mailing list, because at the time, this was a fairly new thing for me. I wanted to make sure it was worth going with, and it started off pretty well. And I thought, focus on this, and then I'll have a platform. So that's what I did. And 6 months later, there was 15,000 people signed up, and we were getting lots of engagement and lots of responses back. And it actually feels like now I've built this community up. For fiction and non-fiction as well, which is great. And hopefully there's some guys from my non-fiction list watching the video as well. I did send out the right link.
Yeah, originally I said,
told in no uncertain terms not to send out the original link. So.
Well, I originally sent Nick one link, and it just didn't occur to me until Dave said something that he might invite his entire email list to join the podcast, which would have been fun. So big picture question: How did you do it? So how would you break that down? And I'll just preface this too by saying one of the things I like about your approach, as displayed in how to supercharge your Kindle sales and everything else, is I can tell that you're an optimizer, and that's like our buzzword right now. Like, how can I make this a little bit better? So how did you do it?
Well, you've got to throw the word iterative in there, haven't you, at some point? But it was basically. It was not doing anything particularly groundbreaking. I mean, this concept has been around for years in the general sort of internet marketing arena. And I think a lot of authors forget that, we're selling ebooks online. We are internet marketers of sorts. It doesn't mean we're sending out spam emails.
Dave just got chills.
Yeah, we're all internet marketers. It's a dirty word, but we are.
Hold on, I gotta go slip my wrist.
I think you got frostbite.
It's okay. We can come up with a new term. It doesn't matter. But the idea is that if you can get people onto your email list, it's a good thing. And I think everyone agrees with that. And one of the concepts that's been going around for a long time is you will get more people signing up to your list if you offer them some kind of incentive. So I thought, I'll take this to the extreme, and I'll say, I'll give you an entire free book if you sign up to my email list. And I immediately saw a big increase in signups. And this was back when I was getting like 3 or 4 signups a month. So it was a big increase, but it wasn't that great. And then I figured, the light bulb clicks, and then you realize, well, actually, all you need now is more traffic, because the process of them signing up is pretty good. You just need more people to see the page. So that brought me on to making the first book in the series perma-free, which, as you probably know, doesn't get you any money, but gets you a ton more downloads than you would do if it was a paid book. So I was kind of sacrificing potential sales in return for email addresses, because I knew that later on down the line, I would have the opportunity to sell to them in the future, and that was more important than today. So that's all I did. I made one book perma-free, and I said, if you sign up to my mailing list, I'll give you the second book for free as well. Or you can go buy it at full price. Here's the links. And that got people signing up in droves. And when you kind of accompany that with a BookBub promotion or any other advertiser, then you can really, really ramp that up very quickly.
What I like about this, and now first of all, the idea of giving away a sign-up incentive isn't going to be new to listeners here, but the way that you're doing it is a little bit different. So your primary, the first book in your series is perma-free, and then you're sending traffic through it through like BookBub ads for the perma-free one. And then it's the second book in that series that you're receiving, which for me sounds like more compelling than just any book free, because they just got this book and ideally they finished it. But then you also do a thing with your sign-up lists where, I don't know if you're still doing this. You put it in. You actually suggest putting it in the front as well as in the back. You still doing that?
Yeah, I am still doing that, because I think not everybody reads right to the end of the back matter, but most people will see the front matter at some point. So if you've got them in the front and the back, you're kind of covering both bases. And I also mention it in the product description as well. So I'm mentioning it a lot. So when people first get to the sales page, they see a little headline that says, "Oh, you can get the next book free when you sign up to my mailing list." Then they see an advert in the front of the book that says you can get the next book free when you sign up to my mailing list. Then they read the book, and then they see the advert again at the back, and by which point they're kind of convinced, hopefully. That's what the numbers show anyway. So I found that doing that really did increase sign-ups considerably.
That's
Go ahead. A good point, and that's a good point, and it's something I hadn't really thought of before, but I had noticed as a reader, a lot of times when I'm reading a book, like the minute I get to the last page of the book's content itself, on a Kindle Fire, Amazon sends me right to the website and asks me to leave a review.
Yeah.
I don't get to that back matter. So unless I physically go and like think to look for that call to action or whatever else is left, and a lot of times I will because I want to see how other writers do it. But I think a lot of people probably don't. They just go to that Amazon thing and either they leave a review or they leave and they go to the next book. So a lot of people might not even see your call to action in the back of a book.
Well, now I got a question about that, Dave, because I thought that the leave a review, the before you go thing that you're talking about, I thought that was, for me, every book I've found, that's like literally you can't go any further. There's nothing left in the book. You're saying you're seeing it at the last page of the manuscript? I've never seen that.
Yeah,
I've never seen that either. For me, it triggers on the very, very last, like when you're at 100%, it triggers.
No, it does on some books. I don't know if,
You checked ours?
Exactly what books. I could check ours at some point.
That's interesting, because I know that front matter is handled differently. So on most devices, if not all devices, the book will start at the first page of the actual manuscript when a person opens it up. And if you wanted to go back and see the table of contents or whatever, you actually have to flip back in the book. It doesn't start there. And so if we have something we really want people to see, I always say put it as at the beginning of the actual manuscript. This is Scrivener talk, by the way, at the first, because otherwise they won't see it. Now, I'm wondering how to square your advice with something else I've read and just what kind of makes sense to me. I tend to come in more on your side, which is the advice to not put too much front matter in because you want people to get through the sample without extra stuff, or every click before they get to reading is a click where you potentially might lose the sale. Have you tested any of that?
Well, all I know is that when I put the advert in the front of the book, my sign-ups increased. And I think it's a good point about having too much front matter. Definitely, I don't want to be scrolling through 50 pages of stuff. But literally all I've got is the cover, the contents, the book description. I always put the book description in case people forget what the book's about and come back to it later. And then it's the advert, and then the book starts. So it's like 4 pages. So if you're on the look inside on Amazon, it's like half a scroll. It's like nothing. And then you've still got a good chunk of preview to read if you want. But, I do see some books, and I think the traditional publishing guys are a lot more guilty of this than the indies, is like listing all of the accolades and all of the editorial reviews and just every possible thing you can think of before you actually get to chapter 1. And that annoys me. Yeah. But they do it in the product description as well. You have to click read more to find out what the actual book's about, and you're scrolling all the way down, and everything's quadruple spaced. But I digress. But yeah, I haven't seen any negative impact from putting it in the front. I've only seen good things.
Okay, Johnny, to answer your question, I just looked at one of our books. I have the Kindle Paperwhite with me right now, and it seems to handle it a little bit differently, where that is the last thing I see before you go. Kindle Fire, however, it does what I see. I don't know if it does it for all books, and I'll go back and check. I'm charging the Kindle Fire right now, so I'll need to check.
Okay, well that's good to know. That's the sort of thing I wouldn't necessarily know. Something else I wanted to ask you, Nick, is I forget, I don't remember the details here, so you can fill this in for me. But you tested different landing pages, I believe, for your email sign up, and to the point where I don't know if you're still using the plugin where you have to click before you actually see the sign up form, and that increased conversions. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and for anyone watching, this might sound a little bit dry, but the outcome is you get more subscribers. So it's a small tweak that you can make. And when you're dealing with perma-free and you're looking at potentially thousands of downloads, a small tweak can make a really big difference. And what Johnny's talking about is the landing page. So the first page that readers see when they click my sign-up link has to be as focused as possible. So it's a completely blank page. And all it's got on there is an image of the book, a short blurb, and then a button that says, give me my free book. And I've been testing out a couple of different pages. The first page I tested out was, instead of a button, there was a email box where people could just type their email address in and get the free book. And the second test was, instead of just entering their email address, they had to click a button first. And I found that by clicking the button first, sign-ups increased by about 50%.
Wow.
And it was crazy because you're adding an extra step, so you'd think it would make it worse, but looking into it deeper, the psychology behind it is essentially when you land on a web page and the first thing you see is somebody asking for your email address, you go on the defensive. It's people are asking you to give them something. But if you see a button that asks you to click it if you want something, and then you do click it, you're asking that page to let you give them the email address. And it's a weird thing, but it works really well. So I've been testing out a couple of different varieties of that and found the best combination is having the button where people click it, then they enter their email address. And yeah, you can use a pop-up light box if you want, or you can just link it straight to MailChimp or Aweber or whatever you use. It tends to work pretty well either way.
There was a specific plugin, and I think you mentioned on RSP. Is that still what you'd suggest?
Yeah, I mean, it's a plugin called Opt-in Links, which was basically like a $25 plugin for WordPress, and it was very focused. It just installed a little orange button, and when you click the button, this light box came up, and it integrated with your mailing list provider, and it would put people onto your mailing list, and it was great. And then I changed my website theme, added some new plugins, and everything became incompatible. So I've moved on a bit since then. So I'm using something called Optimize Press at the moment, which is sort of like Lead Pages, except it installs into your WordPress. So you host the page, so you get a bit more control over it, and that's working just as well. So there's a few options, and the DIY method is just put an image of a button, and then link that image to your MailChimp or your Aweber sign-up form on a separate page, and that can work just as well.
I feel like our sign-up pages are maybe not optimized. I think they might be a little too cluttered. I think we need more landing page format. And
Totally.
And I remember shooting this to Sean, so I think it was from your book or something. we can't use WordPress plugins for us personally because we're on the Rainmaker platform. But if it will use a JavaScript, it will accept JavaScript, and so that I believe would still work. But for anyone else, you can just use the plugin if you wanted.
Yeah, or Lead Pages is pretty good as well. I mean, I haven't signed up with those guys, but they host it for you. So if you have any website,
Lead Pages is fantastic. I can't recommend them enough, except the price. I know a lot of authors would balk at the price. But if it's doing its job, and you're talking about that, many names on a list, they can really help you move books. So I think it's worth it if you actually have, a business and you have a catalog. If you only have one book, the Lead Pages per month, probably not. But to each his own. It is good because you could do a lot of the stuff that Nick's talking about, split testing and landing pages, and they've got templates, and it's very easy to use, and it integrates with all the email software programs. So it's worth looking into, but it is expensive.
I'm concerned because this is one more thing I feel I need to optimize. Because we need more emails. Everybody needs more emails, and that's just one more thing to optimize.
We need to get our sequence done and then optimize that.
Sean, how big is your autoresponder that you're doing right now?
It's 60 parts.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's just it's I can't wait until it's done just because it's so the monkey on my back right now. And once that one is done, we could do other ones, like one specifically for Smarter Artist and Realm and Sands and Collective Inkwell. But right now we have the big master one that needs to be done, and it's 60 parts, and it's a bit unwieldy, and 60 parts.
Nick, I don't know if you'd be willing to share this, but if you added 15,000, I'm curious if you'd give your email, how many people are on it, and what kind of conversions you're seeing if you launch a new book and you send out, because the power of a list is huge if you have a good click-through rate. But I don't know if you
absolutely. I mean, I've got close to a dozen different lists at the moment, and the key is keeping the open rates and click rates high, like you said. And I have found for fiction it's a bit lower. Because, as we said earlier, with nonfiction, you're solving a very particular problem, and people, I think, when they read your email, they know instinctively, yes, this is for me. I'm going to go check it out. With fiction, it's a bit more difficult, but I tend to aim for around 45-50% open rate, and then 15%-ish click rate is pretty standard on my fiction list. And for nonfiction, for one of my lists actually, it's about 70% open rate, 40% click rate in some cases, which is fantastic. So you can be a lot more effective with nonfiction because you're really narrowing down what people are looking for, but then you don't have the volume. So my nonfiction lists are a lot smaller than my fiction lists, so it can balance out a little bit. But certainly, I mean, a lot of internet marketers are looking at sort of 2% click rates, which is just rubbish. So, anything above 10% is fantastic if you can get to that point.
But bottom line, if you were to launch a new book tomorrow, what kind of buys do you think you would get? How many copies do you think you'd move with your email list?
It's hard to tell. I haven't launched a book since August because I'm being really lazy. But I did run a promotion on an existing book, which is actually the first book in my series. I did that back in November, and I emailed my list and I said, can you help me out and grab a copy? Because I'm trying to, get as many copies as possible. And I think I sold something like 700 books in just, I think, about 24 hours. And that was a book that everyone had read already as well. And a lot of people were emailing me back saying, I picked up a second copy at Nook, or I picked up a second copy at Amazon because I really love your books. And that's what blew me away. But, I think the last book I launched, it launched at something like number 800. And that was back in August.
Do you price at 99 cents when you launch, or do you do a
No, that was $3.99, so that was full price.
Yeah, because the thing that you're talking about you just need more traffic is the same way I feel about email lists every time I think about it. Is because you're above us in email list territory. We can sell a few hundred copies of a new fiction book with the email list, not generally a problem, depending on the book. But you just more people on the email list, more initial push. Like you don't need a bookbub. You're your own bookbub, and you don't have to discount.
Essentially, yeah, and it's having that sort of backup, because I think if you're relying on a lot of authors, I think they rely on Amazon for most of their sales. They rely on BookBub for most of their advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take those two things away, what's left? And if you're building that email list up as much as you possibly can, then you only have to rely on yourself, and it just makes life a lot easier, I think, in the long run. But yeah, the more people you've got, the more likely you are to sell a ton of copies on launch day, get a ton of reviews on launch day, and you can get into the the top rated categories, the hot new releases, and then Amazon and the other stores kind of take it from there. So yeah, it's extremely effective.
So on the book that you just said in August, the one you just did, you said you moved 800 or so. Was that a free book, or was that a book that was the one that was $3.99?
So that was a book called Panic, and that was the first book I ever wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the majority of my email list had read it already, but I was running a promotion and I wanted to just see how many downloads we could get. And this was at 99 cents, so It was never going to be a big money maker, but it was an experiment. And I said to people, I'm running this experiment. I'd love to see how many, how high we can get in the rankings as a community. Let the readers choose the next bestseller. Let's get all on the same team and see how high we can push this book. So I said, buy Panic for 99 cents at Amazon or Nook. So I focused on those two sites. And if you've already bought a copy, please consider picking up a second copy from a different site. And then, 700 or 800 copies were sold over that 24-hour period. And this was mostly from people who already owned a copy. And that was just absolutely fantastic.
Now, what was your subject line for that email? Because before you said, you on your subject line, you want to be offering something, not asking for something. But this sounds like an ask email. So how do you get people to open that and go along with it?
Occasionally I will ask. I think, I try to, the majority of my emails are what I can give you.
Mm-hmm.
And every now and again I will ask them to do something for me as well. But I think the key is to phrase it in a way that makes it about them. So yes, I'd like them to buy the book, obviously. And I think that's clear. I think anyone, getting my emails knows that I would love it if you bought my books.
Right.
But the way we talk about it is, it's, as a community, as readers, shouldn't readers be the ones who decide who the best sellers are? Readers should be able to vote with their wallets. And let's work together as a team and see how far we can go. And
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I made the commitment to email back each and every person who bought a copy, as well as a personal thank you. So
I bet that was fun.
It was a good 12 hours of emailing everybody individually back, and but it was great. It was a really nice feeling. So yeah, fantastic.
I think there's the law of reciprocity there, Dave.
Yeah.
I think you can get away with an ask if you're giving, and then you ask. Like that's natural. That's fine. It's the people who churn through their lists. It's churn and burn. They just hammer buy. You get spam. Unsubscribe, and those people deserve for their lists to wither to nothing. But I think if you're giving and then you ask, it's surprising how willing people are to step up.
Absolutely.
One of the things I was remembering I wanted to ask you about is exclusivity. So one of the things I haven't gotten to yet was the idea of how much better you did non-exclusive than exclusive. And we hear a mix, and we experiment with a mix personally, of people who are doing great because their eggs are all in one basket, and they're doing they're milk and select and whatever else, and then there are the people who are like us in general. We want to be everywhere, and so I was curious to read that piece. Can you summarize what you learned about going off exclusivity?
I think that the headline is exclusivity is fine if you're getting something in return for it. So I think and this is a blog post I think you're referring to, and in the blog post I was sort of referencing a hypothetical conversation between a cereal manufacturer and Walmart, where Walmart says, hey, can you be exclusive and we'll pay you less? And it just doesn't make any sense. But if you were getting some tangible benefits out of it, then it makes total sense. And for some authors, being in KDP Select is an absolute gold mine. But for, I think, the vast majority of authors, it's not necessarily the best way to go. And I've spoken to some authors who are KDP Select all the way, and they're top 100 authors. They get the KDP All Stars bonus. They're getting publishing deals and all kinds of stuff, and that's fantastic. But most people won't get that. And I think we only look at the outliers and the people who do amazingly well. We hear about them, but for 99% of people, my gut tells me that exclusivity makes no sense. And for me, I was doing well with book sales, but my income was 90% Amazon, and this kind of worried me. Not immediate kind of, oh my God, the world's going to end tomorrow kind of thing, but in 5 years' time, what's this going to look like?
Dave style.
Dave style, yeah.
No, next
So
year.
I thought, let's reduce that reliance on Amazon, because Amazon could change algorithms. They could introduce some kind of crazy subscription system that might, cause all kinds of problems. Who knows?
Never do that.
They would never do that. But I just wanted to kind of hedge my bets. So I took titles out of KDP Select kind of month by month, just to make sure that nothing crashed through the floor. And 6 months later, sales are up overall by about 15%, and now Amazon is only about 55% of my income from book sales. So I've lessened that reliance and actually made slightly more money. I mean, not enough more money to get really excited about, but the stuff to get excited about is
to me, that's a true success story.
That's a real win. I would say neutral is a success story, but if you're making more,
Absolutely.
then it's a definite win.
Yeah, that's really, really great. And I love how percentages on everything. You're really tracking the stuff. And
Yeah, and this is
treating it
because
like a
I
business.
post everything on my blog, because I like to, it's kind of like accountability in a way. In that if I do something wrong, I get to admit it, and if I do something right, everyone can learn from it. So I put all the graphs and charts up there. So I think I'm remembering right. It's all on the site somewhere. But
And
yeah,
the site
it was a great win.
is
It's neurotia.com, which is my blog. I have another site as well, which is more dedicated to sort of author training, which we can talk about if you like. But
I love how modest you are. You need to name. You need to tell me what the site is, though. Like, how do you spell Neurotia? What is the author training site? Be a whore.
the author I'll use this fancy graphic I've got set up.
All right.
Hold
on,
You gotta speak so the camera goes to you.
I gotta
There we
click. There we go. Your first 10kreaders.com. It's an infographic.
It's amazing. This is how we roll in the UK. But this was based on the stuff I wrote for Supercharge for Kindle sales and reader magnets. I think books are great, but I don't think people always take action after reading a book. Sometimes not everything makes sense. Sometimes there's a bit of procrastination. And I get a lot of emails asking to clarify points in the book. So I thought, I'm going to record a video series that's going to talk people through exactly what they need to do. And this video series talks specifically about how to maximize your visibility on Amazon with keywords, which I know you guys have talked about ad nauseum before. And what we've talked about today, building a mailing list, which for me is the most important part. So there's 3 videos. It's about an hour and a half's worth of training, and it's all completely free at yourfirst10kreaders.com. Plug.
And Neurotia is N-O-O. How do you spell that?
Oh, I should have prepared a graphic for that, shouldn't I? Yeah, it's NOOROSHA.com, and it's a completely made-up word.
I think I'm subscribed to. Way to get the SEO on that one, Nick.
I know.
I think I'm subscribed to both email autoresponders, and they're great.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I appreciate the plug. I hope 99 Designs don't mind too much.
And
No,
the fiction and the fiction books.
And the fiction books are at nickstephensonbooks.com as well. And as I said earlier, if you want to go stalk me on Amazon, do it now, because I've just had a BookBub ad and I look super impressive.
All right, and turn the Wayback Machine in a few days if you're listening on the feed. What, Sean?
I was gonna say I haven't seen the fiction emails, but the nonfiction emails are fantastic. And if you do write nonfiction books, it's really worth subscribing, because see how it's done. Like, it's done very well. It's done, and they're not salesy. They're helpful, and they're the kind of emails that encourage
I asked
readers.
Nick if he had if he'd done Autoresponder Madness. That's how much
I signed up for that after you emailed me back. I went and signed up for it and I thought it was great. But,
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. It's my favorite info product I've ever bought online by far. I love it. So
I haven't bought it yet. I signed up for the autoresponder, and I think 6 emails later they just stopped.
yeah, you know why? Because like one of the things I love about Andre, that guy, is that he seriously doesn't care. Like when he says there are 200 spots or whatever, there are 200 spots, and there's not 201. And you'll have to wait 6 months until he opens it again. It's awesome. It's good stuff.
What was that, Dave? A little comment there?
Definitely.
He's a honey badger. He don't give a fuck.
He doesn't. He does not give a shit. He's awesome. So yeah, but it's the best. What I like about it is that it's very story based. You know, you keep readers engaged by telling them stories and leaving open loops, and make sure there's tons of value. And that's just what I firmly believe. That's what we're all talking about here. Your emails need to have a lot of value, and they need to be interesting, and they need to be reader centric. Boom. There you go.
Now I have a question for Nick. Well, a compliment and a question. Your Leopold Blake books, the covers, they're all awesome. They have a very, similar look to them. Very good branding there. Did you start off that way with such great covers, or did you have like crappy covers first, and you like realized, I ought to brand these and make them all look, similar? How'd that go about? And also, how much crossover is there between your fiction and nonfiction?
With the covers, the number one first thing I did before publishing was get a decent cover, because I knew that, just logic tells you that if something doesn't look good, no one's going to buy it. And I think, like everybody, kind of tried to do it yourself in Paint, and the outcome was just, even to the person who made it and should be proud of it, it was horrible. So I took a recommendation from another author and found a cover designer who put that together for me. A few back and forths, and we settled on a good design. And then literally I just said, for every subsequent book, it was like, just do it exactly the same, and just change the title and the pictures out, but keep it identical. So that if you're, in the dark, squinting, drunk, you can still tell that it's my book, and that was the plan. So yeah, absolutely.
Love you. That's an easy task to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. And with the nonfiction books, there's not really any crossover. I think I mentioned the Leopold Blake series if people want to go check it out, but they don't really cross over that much.
All right, so probably a good time to end, because we've had you on for later than we expected because of our difficulties. So Nick, thanks so much for being on. Your first 10kreaders.com.
That's the one. Here's the graphic again.
There's the graphic. Your first 10k readers.
Click it.
We do have a quick comment. Joe Barlow says, this is one of the greatest episodes of SPP ever. I'm learning so much from Nick, and I just bought Supercharge, your Kindle sales, and 2 of Nick's other books. And a whole bunch of people from New Zealand came in and said hi, what's up, and they're watching. They got your email, I guess.
They did. Good. It didn't go into the spam folder. My teachings work.
Hey, Nick Stephenson fans.
And Robert Scott Norton says, hey, first time listening live, and I missed most of it. Saw Nick's email whilst I'm ironically trying to set up my email list mechanics.
The irony. The irony. I love it.
You can rewind this video. A few people asked, they caught it late, so they asked if it'll be available. Yeah, if you're watching now, this video will be here. It's forever, as long as YouTube's around.
Until the overlords take over.
I love how even with that, Dave's got to put but the worst could happen.
Well, it's only a matter of time before the robots coming round us up like Battlestar Galactica. That was based on reality. You're aware of that, right?
Yeah. Well, they said all of this has happened before, and
Cylons are coming.
It's just ancient history. We all know that.
Right.
Way to spoil the ending of Battlestar Galactica, by the way.
Oh, he might not have, but now with your comment together, we now have the Supercharge Triforce.
We just put the puzzle together.
Yeah, we just put that together. All right, everybody, so thanks for joining us for the Self-Publishing Podcast. If you'd like to get our best advice, check out Write, Publish, Repeat at selfpublishingpodcast.com/WPR. If you'd like to get Nick's advice, you can go to yourfirst10kreaders.com, click the infographic there, or Supercharge your Kindle sales, which I highly recommend. And thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.